Alright guys, so Smash Bros is out as of this morning slash today, depending on if you bought a physical copy or like Luke bought an online copy. But first, I'm just going to jump in and say I don't know why we're using my footage, other than the fact that none of you can record the game, because I'm by far not the best Smash player here. That would be Luke.
Ah,
And actually, while we're at it, Luke, you've by far played the most of this out of all of us, so why don't we just let you start us off?
all right. Well, when I kicked this game off, I'd like to say I kicked it off this morning, but honestly, I stayed up too late and didn't kick it off until noon today. But overlooking that part, the first thing I did was jump straight into the Smash screen and see exactly how many characters they allowed us to have at the beginning of the game.
It's like 9, wasn't it? Or
Uh,
7?
it was seven.
7?
Seven. Plus you can have as many you can have three classes of me characters. So
Yeah, I don't count that.
there. Well, I did, and I counted that as 10 because I made one of each when I first started.
So, so you said seven total.
7 characters,
Isn't
all the starting iconic ones.
that's
So,
that's like less than we got for every other game.
yes, which makes it even more interesting the fact that how many you can unlock. And
As in, like they unlock only at the end of each campaign, like they used to.
No, it's
um,
random all through it.
I did learn some just before starting it that you basically the average unlock period for each character is approximately 10 minutes. So once you unlock one
Yeah,
character, typically you'll see one another 10 minutes later or so, but that's 10 minutes at a minimum. You can be longer depending on what you're doing.
that sounds
Um,
about right, actually, based
yeah,
on my
so
playtime.
yeah, so realistically, out of my playtime so far, I think I'm unlocked an additional 8, and that's to be honest, even I think that that's quite a long time because I played the game for a good 2 or 3 hours. So that 10 minutes is definitely only a minimum. It can be much longer. All
Actually,
depends
just
on what you do.
out of curiosity, what was your first character unlock? Or your first two character
Oh,
unlocks? I'm just wondering whether or
it
not it's common order. Because
hang on, who was my
mine went
first?
my random ones went Ness then Zelda.
Wait, you unlock Ness at the start.
No.
Yes, that is
That was the
correct.
first random unlock I got.
That's
Yes, no.
betrayal for the whole campaign, the whole series.
Well, no. Looking back at how the melee ones and all that were unlocked and when their additional characters were released, so far the order to me is playing rather true to how they previously released them, which led me to believe that the next characters I expected to see after that were the likes of Ice Climbers and Marth, and that's the order that came afterwards. So
Uh,
so far it's holding quite true.
I got Marth second, but that's actually because you have the option throughout the campaign to unlock specific characters, and I had the option to choose Marth, so
Oh, okay.
I took the Marth jump because I
Who was
of
the
the
other one out of curiosity? Or was
I
that like a
could
choose to unlock or move to a different path?
I had the option to choose Marth, Cheek, and I can't remember who the third one was.
Oh wow. Okay.
So was this like a chessboard thing?
Well,
When
I'll
you
let Kevin describe that one because I actually haven't played that particular campaign, so it's news to me that you can actually kind of unlock characters to it. So that's quite surprising. So you had choice of 3 different character unlocks at
Yeah,
that one
so
point.
well, what happened was you get to this like fork in the road because I don't know if you guys have seen the trailer, and hopefully I will have something on screen when we've got visual here. But I don't know if you've seen it, but there's you go sort of through a pathway and through an overworld,
Hmm.
and you got to a stage where it forked into three options, and each of the three options had a different character battle. And if you won that battle, it allowed you to progress down that path, but it also unlocked that character.
Oh, okay.
But what I found out afterwards is it actually takes the other two away when you pick.
Oh, okay. So if you replayed it, you wouldn't unlock those other 2 characters if you chose. If you
I'm
replay with that same character again.
I'm not sure. The adventure is actually very linear. You literally you there's no multi-character start. You literally start with Kirby. End of story.
Oh, okay.
There's not a multi-character start or anything. You start with Kirby, and then you get access to other characters that you can switch between throughout it.
Oh, so it's very similar to the uh the brawl storyline where when you get on when you start a mission, you can just choose to play as one of the characters you've unlocked.
Yeah. Actually,
Okay.
Yeah, and it was reasonably early actually, but it gave me the choice of 3 characters, and I can't remember who the third one was. But I do remember looking at it going the first, like one of them was, it's like, that's nothing special. I basically got that character, or either had it or somebody similar. Then there was Sheik and Marth, which was the 2 that I didn't have or anything like, and I'm sort of glad that I picked Marth, because straight afterwards I got a random encounter for Zelda.
Oh, very nice.
So it worked well.
I think the most recent character I've unlocked in my line, just doing it naturally by roughly 10-minute intervals, has been Captain Falcon, which is fortunate because he was one of my favorites in the previous one, so he's sort of taken over my swing of where I play. But him and Marth are ones I'm currently switching through. They're my all-time favorites. I'm just waiting for Roy to eventually show up later on. But one of the things I found rather interesting was the very first time I had an encounter with I think it was, no, it wasn't Ness. It was actually Zelda. I actually lost, and I thought to myself, oh god, how long do I have to replay now 10 minutes just to unlock her again? But then I realized that when you go into the games and the extras or games and events section under the title screen, they have a little curtain in the bottom right corner that when you click on it, you can reverse all the characters that you've previously encountered and just retry them again until you win. And it'll just loop through them. So if you do the first one and win, if you have a second one, it will immediately leave the thing up and say, would you like to challenge this character as well? And each time it just lets you choose who you want to combat them with, and you get your chance again. So I like that.
Sort of on the topic of losing, did the Smash Bros. Games have a history of a dynamic difficulty? Like, I'm not the biggest player of the series, and it's evidenced by the fact that I got destroyed in the very first match I played. But, like, I suddenly held my ground an awful lot better in this one straight after, and it's like, there's no way in hell I got this much better.
No, and that's the thing.
This is definitely the game just stepped difficult. This definitely felt like, well, no, I'm not even saying it felt. The game outright definitely stepped difficulty down on me.
There is a huge level of complexity variation in this game, and it rings true because not too long ago I read a review where someone had mentioned that they described this game as being a perfect one for beginners and pros by how well the complexity of the game can fluctuate from being amateur to all the way up to master.
Yeah.
And I tell you, I'm in a very similar position to you. I've had lots of surprising losses and lots of just outright ruffle stomps over enemies. And in my opinion, I thought, no, they're the exact same. But after a little while of realizing I had this huge, massive sway in difficulty, I started analyzing my fights before I did them, and I started realizing that the smallest tweaks in the character's behavior, the effects that were occurring on the map, and the items that it was dropping, that was either making the match hugely chaotic and basically requiring split-second reaction times to changing events, to just outright the opposing character just jumping in the way of your attacks when you miss them. It's like, okay, that is a massive difference. But what I like about it is it's completely random. You could be playing on the same difficulty for a little while, and all of a sudden the game would say, okay, and here's the next level, and all of a sudden you get ruffle stomped. And sometimes if you're not paying proper attention, you just don't even realize. You think, oh, damn, my streak's over. Oh, I'll just try again. And next time you play that mission, the game may then think, okay, they weren't ready for that. I'll kick it back down a small notch, make it a little bit less difficult, and then all of a sudden it's a hard-fought battle, but you win. So I think the game, in a way, tries to force you to get a little bit better, but if it sees that it's forcing too much on you, it pulls back a little bit and then feeds it to you slowly.
Yeah. So I had it clearly ramped it really aggressively down right at the start, because I got absolutely destroyed in the first match I played. And then I'm pretty sure it stepped up difficulty twice in one hit. because it felt it wasn't a small step. It was suddenly like I had been going reasonably well and getting sort of close matches, and then suddenly it turned around on me really fast. And then I replayed the exact same match, and the AI performed quite differently, but I would say it was still better than the previous ones I had been playing, but it was worse than the immediately before one. So yeah, it's got a couple of notches, and it's definitely using streaks and so forth to jump the difficulty up and down.
Yeah, and originally when I first encountered that, I wasn't entirely sure how to take it. But I mean, I haven't touched any of the main campaign, but one thing I have given one attempt to is the classic mode, and the fact that in that one they specifically reintroduced the intensity system that they did in Brawl, with the weighted scales, where low intensity, less reward but easier fights, then greater intensity, more challenge but better rewards. And that plays out the old classic mode of you just play through stages and verse your master hand and crazy hand at the end. In that one, the way that it starts off is as you win your matches, depending on your performance, it will raise the intensity by certain portions all the way up to the last boss. And to me, the way that system worked, in one of the fights, I almost lost, and the game gave me, let's say, 0.3 intensity. In another match, I ruffle stomp enemy in 5 seconds, got a perfect, and it gave me a whole 1 intensity increase. If you lost a match, it will drop the intensity down a little bit, depending on how badly you lost. And I thought to myself, that almost seems an awful lot like how some of those smashes I was doing before were feeling, where when I lost majorly, the AI suddenly dropped their performance to a slightly lower level, not plummeted, but just dropped it by like next level. Then when I was doing really well, I felt very similar to the intensity of that classic mode, where it just slowly pitted itself up a little bit until it found the point where, okay, this is where this guy's currently at, and it sort of stuck around that point then, unless you somehow showed a massive improvement in one of their matches.
Yeah, and I gotta admit, once I realised that was the thing, I was like, I actually quite like this idea, because it at least gives you the AI a chance to player train.
Exactly, and also it gives you a perspective on where you are in relation to the gameplay. Where it sort of tells you, this is where you're playing at. We'll help you aggressively get better, and if we think it's too much, we'll take away a little bit of difficulty and we'll mother you for a little bit, make you feel a bit better. So like in the exam, where they give you easy questions, you do those ones before you tackle the harder ones again, and then it starts building on you again.
As long as it keeps pushing you up, you'd need to be playing an enormous amount of time to really track how the difficulty is curving out. But as long as it keeps pushing you upwards, I like the idea.
I agree with you there, but yeah, it does come down to a matter of how they've algorithm that program in the back end too. If it is a thing on time, if you go away from the game for a certain amount of time, does it not fully remember your progress? Because let's face it, the less time we play a game, our skills of that game slowly deteriorate. I wonder if they've made that sort of a count in the game, or if they'll just assume you're at the same point, and when you have a massive loss, be like, oh, okay, we need to drop this really far down for this guy now. He's clearly returning from
I think
a bit of time away.
I suspect it would start exactly where it was, or only just below it, and then readjust very quickly.
No, I think you're right.
I did see though that you can actually apply balancing changes of your own to every character.
I did not go that far into each of the characters. Was that in Smash specifically, or as the character's base?
You can actually do it to the characters across the entire game, and I think it is in the Smash settings.
So is it like the new repurposed handicap system?
Basically, but you can apply it to the actual character. So regardless of who or what picks that character, it will always have that buff or nerf to it.
Well, that is a handy thing to know, because one of the things I've noticed most when I encountered my first Roy in the game. No, so not Roy, Ike, sorry. And it's very similar to when I was watching a quick stream with one of the guys playing as Ganondorf. Their forward smash with their swords is so incredibly powerful. And I thought to myself, it's probably not impossible to beat, but honestly, if there's a little balancing system on there, that would be a good way to try to even it out for people who probably aren't good at handling that character at first, and then you start then chipping it away once you get a better handle on dealing with them. Sounds like more of like another learning system.
I think it's been put in there so that the community can balance.
Self-evaluate, yeah. Yeah, no, I agree.
And they're not reliant on Nintendo pushing out balance patch after balance patch after balance patch.
Yes, exactly. And that's a good thing, because it means that they can... Well, the only stuff that comes onto their community specifically is stuff that people have tried and tested, as opposed to just being, oh, what happens if we reduce their damage by this much, or let's just reduce it by this portion and see what happens. They don't have to just push it out there as a quick hot fix and like, oh, okay, that was a terrible mistake. We've either killed that character or done nothing at all. At least if they have the records of someone trying that thing out and saying, this works for this situation, then they can add those sort of balances in. But yeah, no, you're right. That sounds really useful.
In saying that, then, seeing as we're in the era of multiplayer games, does this one have an online multiplayer versus?
Yes.
It does, yes.
So how would you... Because see, how you can say there in a single player, you can denote what the power is of each character. I would find it hard to believe that you'd be able to adjust that for multiplayer.
No, it actually specifically says in the setting when you go to change it that it does not apply when there is more than one system involved.
Yeah, so in that case, then you're still, like, you're talking about balancing patches. There's a good chance that could still be a thing if people, like, you know, it's the way it is. If people nag enough in online play, they would probably do something like that.
But Nintendo can freely rebalance the online play if they have to. Like, all of this would be able to be changed on their server side pretty easily from the way that this seems to be set up. What they're doing is giving you the ability to, on your own machine, apply your own balance.
Yeah.
Because that can't be easily done. And in the event that you're not connected to the internet, this still allows you to do balancing changes to your game that otherwise you would have no hope of getting.
But on the topic of Smash, at a little bit of time that you played, how did you feel about the combat and the combat sense that you had going into them?
Yeah, you really shouldn't be using me as this, because like my Smash Bros history is like 2 or 3 hours playtime on Brawl.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
And maybe like half an hour on Melee.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, in that case, then I'll redirect the questions toward you instead, Nick. Just with your experience with Melee and Brawl, do you remember in those particular games where, before they first introduced the Smash Ultimates, you just had the characters' raw abilities, and that in a way just defined how well they performed in fights, and it was all rather staticky and pretty much it could be one-sided if the other player just had a bit of a better understanding of that person's that character's abilities and how to utilize them. Then they introduced the smash attacks, which gave you a bit of a trump card to play in the situations where you're either really losing or you just needed to quickly get yourself back into a safe place. In Ultimate, I feel like they've gone even another step further than that. Not necessarily with the Smash Ultimates that they have done, because some people have had some really interesting changes done, but with how the character dynamics happen in each of the Smashes. Like, I didn't do anything outside of a 1v1 because I was simply trying to experiment with some of the characters. But one of the things I noticed was combining the character's abilities, which are all very fluid, the variety of items and such that are in the game, and the fact that you can actually stage shift in the matches you're playing, so you don't have the stage you pick at the beginning is not necessarily the one you'll end on. I found it actually very difficult to keep up with the constantly changing combat environments, oftentimes being caught off guard by either the items that were appearing randomly on the screen, or the fact that the person I was versing could suddenly do something that was seen as unnatural because of the the 360-degree movement that you can do with all your abilities. Nothing's just singular straight anymore. You can point your attacks up around. Your character can fluidly jump, do just guards, and even grapple and everything. Some characters while in the air. From your opinion of playing a brawl game, how would you think that you would adapt yourself to handle a character who could basically dance around you on the screen, with their basic abilities?
So what you're asking is that's what they can do now.
If that's what they could do now, how do you think you would handle that on a brawl environment where brawl took it to the extent of, let's say, characters could attack every 22.5 degrees around themselves with their abilities front, forward, down, and up. In this particular game for Ultimate, you can attack in any degree you want with your abilities, which basically means that if you're guarding up for an ability, sometimes if someone goes too low down, they can actually get through some of your guards or actually catch you off guard. Because when characters clash with their abilities, it's not only a case of you two both charge at each other, therefore you're both going to cancel each other out. Sometimes if one character's ability just goes a little bit lower than yours, yours can go over their head and they can charge and beat you in an outright brawl. That wouldn't happen in melee or brawl, because the way they set up the fluid mechanics of the game meant that if two characters collided, it was an equal fight. Whereas in this one, that's no longer the case. You can actually beat your opponent by having strategic advantage on where you place your blows.
Hey.
So yeah, it introduces some new dynamics, which at times can be the breaking point as to whether or not you beat that enemy who's on high damage, or if they suddenly mount a comeback and you get bamboozled by the sudden comeback and just get ruffle stomped off the ring, which happened to me on a couple of occasions.
This sounds like they're trying to emphasize that you have to move around more. You can't just stand in one spot and do an almighty block in every direction.
Yes, and the other thing that they've introduced a lot into the game is the efficiency of being either a ranged or close range combat hero. People at range now have a lot more abilities to basically bombard you and keep you at range, but at the same time, a lot of melee characters have new ways of getting around the projectiles and charging in the close range, or in the case of a range versus range battle, almost every range class has a way of redirecting or absorbing the enemy's projectiles for their own benefit. If you take the range me character as an example, you would first glance at they look like a complete copy of Samus, but in actual fact, they have one thing that Samus doesn't have, and that is that they have a variety of moves that they could use to either knock you away, produce a wall in front of them of flame, or actually produce what they've called an echo barrier, which any projectile shot at you and hits that barrier will actually go back at the enemy, but actually go back at them twice as strong as what they sent it to you at. And I haven't tried it to see if it's similar to what the Fox and Falco's shields used to be, where you could just put something between you and just keep going until one of your shields broke and you took all the damage. But I'm curious to know whether that sort of thing works with an Echo Shield, because if it does, you could basically constantly multiply that damage and basically make it lethal to whoever drops their shield. So there's little tweaks like that in the game that I think add a lot of complexity and a lot of combat thinking that you have to put into whether or not you make that jump or you pull out of combat entirely. Now, I haven't tried too much of more than 1v1. I've done a little bit in the Spirits arcade, but we'll get to that later. One thing I've noticed in the game, watching one of the streams, is that the motion of adding another player, because obviously you can go up to, I believe it's 8 is the maximum number of players.
It says 8.
So when I was first watching the stream, they only had 4 characters. So four player characters in the game. Then one person randomly came along and decided they wanted to join. I thought to myself, okay, what's the game going to do? Is it going to force them to go to 8, in which case, or something like that to suit the maps? And no, all of a sudden, in the middle of a match, someone just add themselves in. Not in the middle of a match, just before a match, add themselves in. The game said, "Oh, sure, we'll register you." I'm like, "Okay, is it going to kick them into the Omega maps?" And it's like, "Oh no, they just simply slightly adjusted one of the maps. And it's like, here you go, you can still play on this one." It's like, "Oh, previously in Brawl that would have been considered a 4-player map only," and the game's like, "Oh no, you can play it for 5 to 8 characters, no issue at all."
Yeah, to be fair, most of the maps are pretty dynamic from the looks of things.
Yeah. And that's the interesting thing too, because that means that basically the teleportation system that can basically time warp you to a different map while you're playing something means that there's no limitation to which map you can be sent to. All very interesting, I'm finding, and it's made combat very difficult because oftentimes I've gone to, like, say, pick up what I thought was an interesting item, walk near and thought, I wonder what this thing does. I walked up to it during the heat of battle, and all of a sudden, like, I think, what was it? There was this little bag catcher dude, and I thought, oh, he looks like he's my friend. I walked up to him, he picked me up, and then took me off the map and killed me. I thought, oh, okay. For myself, that's not what I guess that ability would have done when I walked up to it, considering it had a red arrow on it. I thought, okay, it's mine. So I walked up to it, and no, it took me off the edge and killed me.
Nah, I had the same thing. There was a star power up that I used, and it just instant killed me. It's like, okay, not doing that again. But in saying that, actually, we are running quite long, and I'm sure we're not going to run out of things to talk about, so we might actually take a break and make this a 2-parter.
Yep, in the next one we can talk about, well, from my perspective, talk about the Spirits Arcade. I have a lot to talk about on that one.
Alrighty. Well, we will cut this here, and for anyone watching, part 2 should be up soon, or already up if you're watching this later. Hopefully Mark will be sharing his thoughts then. Alright, catch us on the next one.